Welcome, everybody. A warm welcome to this Gaia Journey experience. A welcome back to those of you who have been with us before, and a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time this morning or this evening, wherever you are. It's such a joy to be together in this way, especially in a time when there is quite a bit going on in our world. For many of us around the world, this is a crisis moment. And for some of us, it's quite painful. And there's a great feeling of discomfort that we are holding as we move through this and sit with the uncertainty of what is to come. Through the Gaia journey, we've been processing some of those feelings and that experience as a global community through an inhale moment. It's a time where we can actually come together and align around what we are seeing and sensing as a global community, and not get siloed or isolated in our individual experience. So, a warm welcome to all of you as we continue on this journey together. I'll share a little bit about where we are in the grand scheme of our journey together, and I'll share a little bit about where we're going, and invite us into what we will be doing today, which will be followed by Otto and additional activities. So we can pull up the first inhale slide and take a look at it together, where we'll see just a little bit of the kind of essence of what it means to kind of drop in as a global community to this moment. And you see the orb here that is actually allowing us to tap into and sense into the new possibilities that exist for all of us. And it's in some ways we've talked about the new world that we know is possible. It's the essence of that coming into a sense of new possibilities that we're doing here together. And moving to the next slide, we'll just land where we are in our journey together here. So in this moment, we met together. You'll see that kind of wavy line. That is where we met together at the inhale on March 27th. We met again April 10th. And now here we are, April 24th, or for many of you, it's also already April 25th. And in that moment, it's where we actually come together and align. So in this first month, we're still right in the beginning here, but in the first month, we really spent the time staying with and moving and dropping into this deep listening experience. Now we begin the moment of dropping into a deep resonance. And that is kind of the moment where we start to look at the phenomenon or the what happened or what's been happening, and start to sense into where is that feeling landing in the body? Where is that feeling landing for me? What is actually happening? What's coming up here and now? I likened that to something that Arthur Zients has shared with us, which is a bell sound meditation. And so when you hear the sound of the bell, you initially hear the first sound. And then afterwards, you can kind of almost still feel the bell sound after the bell has even stopped ringing. That's the resonance that we're sitting in now and that we'll be sitting with today. And as we move forward in our journey, on May 8th, we'll be joined by Thomas Hubel, Nipun Mehta, and John Kabat-Zinn, who are incredible thinkers and really moving all of us forward around collective trauma and systems thinking, mindful awareness, and really will support us in our journey to look at how we can move through this deep resonance practice together. And going forward from that, we'll continue with these inhales to bring in additional practices and guests to support our experience together. So we'll continue to move forward along this journey together, and note that while it may feel like we're already a month in, some of us have been isolated or in quarantine for 38 days or more, that we are just in the beginning of our journey as a global community together. So with that, for continued framing, I will turn it over to Otto.
Thank you, Antoinette. And also here from the Boston area, a warm welcome to all of you. It's great reconnecting with you. Before we take a deep dive into today's session and into the next stage of the journey that Antoinette just outlined with us, I wanted to draw your attention very quickly to three terms that might be actually quite useful, both for today's session, but also for the journey that's ahead of us. And these terms are social fields, social arts, and awareness-based research or awareness-based action research. Social fields. Social fields are basically social systems seen from within. So while social systems usually look at human behavior from a third-person view, from an outside view, basically what a camera would capture, social fields look at human behavior from both the outside view and the inside view, from a third-person perspective, yes, but also from a first-person and second-person perspective. So to show you an example of a social field perspective, kind of this model, kind of so you see an iceberg model. And, you know, the social field perspective basically says, if you read it from the top down, that in order to achieve different practical results here, we have to change the quality of our relationships, which means we have to change the patterns of thinking, of conversing, and of organizing. And in order to accomplish that, we have to cultivate, we have to become aware of and cultivate the deeper source conditions from which we operate, by which we mean the different soil or container conditions and and different inner conditions from which we operate. So a social field perspective basically says that source conditions, these deeper source conditions here, give rise to qualities of relating or patterns of thinking, conversing, and organizing, which in turn produce practical results. So when it comes to change, when we want to see different results from a social field perspective, it's not enough just to react against the result, the tangible outcomes here. It's not enough to just address this first level here of different patterns of thinking, conversing, and organizing. It is also necessary to address these deeper root, these deeper source conditions. So that's what basically that have to do with the quality of our awareness, the quality of our attention and intention, the quality of our consciousness. So the question, of course, is how? How do we do that? And what we have learned in 2 decades of practical experimentations around that are 2 things. The first one is that in order to investigate kind of these deeper layers of, you know, these deep structure kind of social systems, you could say, you need tools. You need to develop new tools. And what we found is that the most powerful tools that really help us to bring our awareness and to cultivate these deeper conditions are social art practices. So that's the first thing that we learned. And the second thing that we learned is that we need to integrate these tools in an extended concept of science that we call awareness-based research or awareness-based action research that blends first, second, and third person methods by bending the beam of scientific observation that usually looks at reality as something out there back onto the observing self. So what does it mean to bend the beam of scientific observation back onto our own self, onto our own behaviors? It means that we help communities and systems to see and to sense themselves, to look into the mirror of the collective, to see our own shadows, the shadows of our own collective behavior. And last time, when Dana spoke about structural violence and structural love, I think she gave us all kind of a powerful example of looking into our collective mirror. So that's basically what the state of the art of systems thinking is doing. It's blending systems thinking with systems sensing in order to make communities and systems see and sense themselves. So it means in order to help us as community and systems to bend our beam of observation back to ourselves in a way that allows us to link the patterns of collective behavior that we enact here to link to the patterns of the relational patterns that we enact with each other, and to link those with the deeper source conditions that we can cultivate and change when we put our awareness around that. So that's basically what we are trying to do, and that's essentially what we are trying to move towards with our GAIA journey, and that is that is the reason why we are so happy that in this session we will be joined by 3 critical partners in that journey. So it's Arawana, who is a co-founder of the Presencing Institute and the originator of a new social art called Social Presencing Theater. And she will be joined by Laura, who is one of her closest collaborator and who has been co-developing this whole field of social presencing theater. And then we will be also joined by Eva, who is heading the Presencing Institute research group and also co-heading the GAIA research team that, as we progress in this journey, will give us every now and then a little feedback, and will feed back to us what some of the emerging themes and patterns that the research group is identifying from interacting with us in a variety of focus groups and other ways. And on that note, I turn it over to Eva.
Thanks, Otto. Hello, everyone. So I'm Eva, and I am here just north of Montreal in Canada. And as Otto said, I'm coordinating the GAIA research, where we've been gathering mainly qualitative data through survey and through focus groups, and then using that to help us really try and see and understand what's happening here in GAIA and through GAIA as it happens. So being able to sort of see it as it's unfolding. And in doing that, what we're really trying to do is sort of surface and make more visible some of the less visible dimensions of change in the change process. And then what we do with that is we come back here and we share it with you, partly to see how it resonates, to see if it reflects what you're experiencing. But really largely, the purpose of bringing it back to the community is that so that all of us who are on our own sort of personal GAIA journeys can at the same time become aware of the whole that we're a part of. And it's an emerging and evolving whole. And so I do want to thank everyone who has taken part in the research, the surveys, or the focus groups. And in fact, we had many more people who were willing to take part in focus groups than we had groups. And so I did want to mention that there is another opportunity to be a part of the research with the next stage, which is around the social presencing theater work that we'll be doing shortly in this session. But for now, what we would like to do is share some of what's present here in our field through the voices that came out in the focus groups. And so if we can go to that clip and share that now, that'd be great.
I really want to be an active citizen in this new world that's starting to emerge, because this time next year, it's going to be different, and I don't want to be absent to it. I want to be a part of that awakening.
When I hear words in sessions, it connects with me, something like Luis was referring to. When I hear the music, that was the music that I wanted to play. When I see tears in someone's eyes, I also see it in mine. So that kind of connectedness.
I felt that the new future is being co-created. A whole new systems thinking is being co-created.
It's so crazy to see that it's real, that we are one, and to experience it like not as an idea, because I teach my students about we're one with nature and all together, you know, like kind of in theory, but I've never experienced it with other humans so openly and so like in 1 second. It's so crazy.
What we're doing here is precisely finding a way to coordinate the global system, but with more consciousness, attending in different ways. And we have to find a way to create a structural love instead of structural violence.
I was thinking what is being co-created is maybe it's the courage to change and to act on things.
So I just want to thank again everyone for their sharing and for making that sharing possible. And I'd like to add one more piece from the focus group that came up quite recently, because I think it really speaks to an important point about what kind of early action in the change process looks like. So Hannah in Germany shared the story that she, after one of the last Inhale, went into a meeting with her organization, which is an economic development agency. And she suggested to her team that instead of focusing on the question that they'd been asking themselves, which was, how can we get the economy back to normal, that they instead shift that question and think about what would an economy look like that served the well-being of all? And by asking a different question, she kind of stimulated a different kind of conversation, which then also led to some other conversations. And also, helped Hannah in herself connect with what's really true, her own truth and her own work. And I really loved that story, and it kind of touched and resonated with me, because I think it's a beautiful example of how the change process starts with very small steps that then ripple out. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Antoinette.
Thank you so much, Eva, and thank you, Otto, for bringing us into what is happening here and what is actually possible with these micro shifts that we might be feeling. So with that, we are going to actually move into our first breakout, where you can share your name and where you are currently. And the question that we're going to ask you to focus on is, what micro changes, if any, have you been experiencing in the past few weeks? Perhaps it's a deepening of your listening, or you're noticing something new in the questions that you're asking, whatever it may be, or maybe it's something similar to the story that Eva just shared. Whatever it may be, we hope that you can share it with each other and then share it back with us. So again, your name, where you are currently, and what micro changes you might already be noticing in yourself. So enjoy your time together. We'll be in breakouts for about 10 minutes. And see you back here in 10 minutes. Enjoy. So I know that we are all rolling back in, and welcome back to everybody who is in on Zoom, and welcome back for all of our YouTube live stream viewers. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to be able to connect together in this way. And for those of you who haven't been with us before, we are connecting 4 Zoom rooms all at once, or 3 Zoom rooms for this conversation. And we're able to also share that with the live stream on YouTube. So we are taking in your comments and conversation. We have lots of ways to bring this all back together and share across our rooms and across our whole group. And also noting that we had a Spanish and Portuguese session run earlier and 2 English sessions run before that. So we are just kind of building a larger conversation in our global collective together. So now that you're back from your room, it would be great to hear what has come up. What micro changes have you noticed? You can put them in the chat. So you can, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little chat button, and you can type in directly to everyone what came up for you, or what are some of the micro changes that you heard or felt or are feeling. And if you'd like to share across our Zoom rooms, you can click on the participant button and click on the blue raise hand button, and that will signal to us that you are ready to come in. And we'll take 1 or 2 comments from each of the Zoom rooms. And if you are on YouTube, you can type in to the commenting area there. So we'll open up the conversation with anyone who wants to share. We have Lisa on channel 2. I'm just getting Lisa. There you are.
There you go. Lisa.
Hey, so my group knit together in just 10 minutes. Beautiful. It was all organic. I opened by saying I just had acupuncture, and that I'd missed the opening session, but that what I was noticing in these weeks was doing more qigong and having the chance to, as a result, notice, just practice bringing myself to presence more in Zoom conversations. And then the next participant talked about all the work she's, all the hope she has, and to reground so much as we come through this and see how we come out. And the next person talked about his some personal losses and deep connection to land. And we all kind of wrapped it up by talking about how purpose itself may be changing. In our little group, we talked about what I used to think of as purpose may be more about just being present and letting the meaning and the purpose come from being present. And it was all connected to land and to presence inside of the self, and to processes of personal and collective grief. It's pretty amazing 10 minutes. I want to thank the people that were in there with me, and thanks y'all for the conference.
Lisa, what a beautiful conversation it sounds like you had, and thank you for sharing that back with us, all of the different components of what it can mean to be in connection in that way. We'll go next to Rollinson Sue. You're up. We're going to go to Alice Howard, actually. There you are, Alice.
Hey, everybody from Sydney. Yeah, I was in a group with Amma and JC, and we talked about the stripping away of anything that didn't feel like it was serving us, that we'd all notice this kind of falling away and quietening of the white noise of busyness over time, and how that had really crystallized intent that had been sitting in us, each of us, for a really long time. And Amma shared a story, a beautiful story actually, of how her family lived separately from her, and that they were all going to move onto a property together. And that's something that these ideas that have been floating around for a really long time are now coming to fruition and making us sense what's most important to us. So thank you to everyone in my group.
Thank you, Alice. Sounds like such rich groups happening, and also just looking at the chat and the beautiful reflections that have been coming up in each of these moments. So thank you for sharing all of them with us and with each other. We are going to move into an embodiment practice, and a lot of what happens when we're in these conversations, for me, I'm sitting here in this chair and really operating in the mind, and sharing vocally, and often I'll drop into my heart, and what Arawana is going to invite us to do is actually drop into the body. And one of the feelings that I've had throughout this day especially is that we really are stepping into a new way of being with each other, which is really what's required for us to be able to move forward. So with that said, Arawana, thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Arawana, you're muted.
This evening, we're very happy to see all of you. And I thought we could start with just being present. And I thought we could be where we are, be how we are, and be who we are. So to start with where we are, just look around yourself for a moment in the room that you are. Just where are you placed right now? In your house or apartment or studio? Where is it that your body is placed right now? And then just to really have a sense of your seat, your chair, that you can feel that you're sitting in your spot and that your feet are firmly on the ground, that you feel that your feet are connected to the big earth body, to the Mother Earth planet body, that each of us has a place right now sitting on the planet and feeling that we're grounded there. We feel our weight, we feel our earthy quality, that we actually have a spot and a place and can feel settled there. Then we also bring our attention, so this is where we are on the planet in our room. So if we could just spend another minute on the sense of how we are, that we are sitting upright, we have a good strong sense of a back. We notice that our head is surrounded by lots of space and openness. We can always connect with our sky-like open mind. And we feel the softness of our heart, and particularly now, the tender-heartedness, the sadness that we feel about what is going on with so many people who are suffering now. We also feel the human-hearted strength and resilience of heart. So however we're feeling now, we honor that. We welcome that. And this genuineness is very communicative. It's very visible, that we can feel in each other our own genuineness, our own good-heartedness. And it actually lives in the body. So this is embodied. It's visible to other people, and we can feel it. So this shape where we're sitting now, we're going to call this body shape, sitting upright, a kind of sculpture. It's a body, it's a sculpture of who we are right now. So I'm going to ask you to shift your shape. In other words, sit in a different body shape. It doesn't matter what it is, just whatever you feel like, just go to another shape and rest there. You feel its back, feel its head. You feel where your feet are, where the belly is. You live in that shape. Please switch to another one. Again, it doesn't matter what it is, just another body shape. And you feel, where are those arms? Where's the back? Where are the legs? What does it feel like to live in this body shape? Now I'll ask you again to make another shape, but this time, please attend to the feeling of moving from where you are, moving. What are the arms moving, the back? The weight is shifting, maybe. Stay with the feeling of the movement and then rest in another shape. And once again, that shape, it almost like the shape itself gives birth to a movement. You don't need to think about it. The body will just naturally want to move somewhere. Just follow. Where would it move to? Where does it shift to? So we're applying a little bit of mindfulness in order to really live in the body, not jump out into our mind and thinking about it. Once more, moving. Stay with the feeling of the body. Stay with it until it stops and rests. Perfect. So this is the foundation for working with this method called social presencing theater, which is part of our social arts work and offerings that the Presencing Institute, many of our colleagues are co-creating. This way of really attending to the feeling quality of our experience, the sensing quality. In fact, the word aesthetic means the feeling of something. And it's not just what we think about, that's important also, but it's very important that we have really use our sense perceptions and feel. What is it that our body and our social bodies, our groups of bodies, what does that feel like? And this is very tangible, even though it's invisible. So we're heightening that quality in the practices called social presencing theater and making visible what might be in the thought or feeling level, which is not quite visible, but making that visible, felt for ourselves, and how that forms healthy social fields, healthy social relationships. And we also notice when there's stuck things in our patterns of relating to each other or speaking, where we project and are not quite accurate about our sensing quality. So these are qualities that we're trying to investigate and bring forth in this work in the social arts. So to begin with, so social presencing theater is a method, and we'd like to do a little bit with you now, and this is how it goes. I want to invite you to think about some situation in your work life or personal life in which you feel that what you're trying to create or trying to do is not going forward. We call this a stuck place, and it could be a question, it could be a challenge, it could be a doubt, it could be an obstacle, but it's something that you want to make happen that isn't going forward for whatever reason, doesn't matter. What we're looking at is, what does it feel like? Not as a drama particular or emotion, but what are the forces that are holding you stuck? So I'm going to ask you to either do this in the chair, or you're welcome to stand up. I'm going to stand up here so you see a little bit more of the body. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to just ask you to do it with me. So you don't need to watch the screen particularly unless you want to. I'm just going to give the instruction, and we can practice it once, because we're going to take this into our breakout group. So just to familiarize ourselves, I'm thinking about it, and I'm going to make my body into a sculptural shape that expresses some aspect of where I feel like I'm kind of constricted or stuck somewhere. So this is what I'm making one, but you just go ahead and make yours. And then let a phrase, a short phrase, or a couple of words come out of that shape. It's not so much that you'd have to think about it, but that shape is expressing something. And what is that? In my case, it's pulling away are the words that come to me when I think of mine. Pulling away, but it could be anything. You just say a couple of words to yourself. Stay with your shape, really feel it. Oftentimes we're not used to really feeling the body shape. Feel the feet on the ground and your back, shoulders, hands, muscles of your face. Don't think about it now, or just let thoughts go if they come to mind. Where does that shape want to move? It doesn't want to stay stuck. Stuck is not sustainable. Where does it want to move? Okay, stay with the body. Let it move. Stay with the body. Stay with the body. Back, arms, stay. Moving slowly. Moving slowly. Moving slowly until it comes to a second shape. And then, again, you can say your words. In my case, my words are sinking in. Okay, so that's the method. Making a shape and anything, press down, pull back, whatever, staying with that, saying the words, then letting the shape move to where it wants to go. Stay with the body, stay with the body, stay with the body until it comes to the second still shape, saying your words. Okay, Laura will give you the instructions for the breakout, and we hope that you can really enjoy this. And many of us have been using this quite a bit for personally and in groups, so we get a chance now to share with other people and get a little bit of echo, because however we feel something, other people know what that is. So Laura, please go ahead. I'm so pleased that you're going to help us with this next part of our work together and our breakout groups.
Okay, thank you, Arawana. That was beautiful. And what we are inviting you now to go into your breakout groups. And when you get there, what we will do is one by one, you will show the sculpture 1 to sculpture 2. We heard Arawana saying that social presence in theater is about making something visible. So we generously make it visible for the others. And one by one, our partners in the breakout groups give us feedback. So we do sculpture 1 as we did. We say our phrase. We go through the movement into sculpture 2. We say our second phrase from sculpture 2. And the others, our partners, give us back one sentence about I saw, I felt, when they saw our breakout. Could we show the slides, please, with the instructions for breakout group? If we have one. Yeah, thank you. So here's the slide where you can find it. So the first person makes the sculpture 1, hold, sense it, says one sentence, move to sculpture 2, the same, and the observers offer a phrase back from the shift they observe from 1 to 2. When we are done, we go to the other one, and when all the group is done, you just take a moment to note your sentences in your journal, and we come back to the main room. Okay? So we are coming back from our breakout groups. Some are still coming. So I think there we are, all of us. So, and now I'm going to invite you to another step in our journey today. And you remember we asked you to bring to the session white paper, markers, colors, and now we will use them. And so the idea is to let the experience you went through in your own body and in this little social body that you created with your breakout group to resonate in you, like the bell Antoinette referred earlier today, and let this take shape in the paper that you have in front of you. And how are we going to do this? So we suggest, this is a suggestion, that you use this a normal white paper and you fold it in two. And on one side, you will draw sculpture one. Perhaps we have the slides that we can put on for the drawings. And so on one side, you see here, you will draw sculpture one. And on the other side, you draw sculpture two. And we want to emphasize the shape, the forces, whatever comes from your experience in this stack journey. And we invite you to also put in the phrases. So a message from your sculpture one, in this case, you can see here, tied in my own world, and a message from sculpture two, in this case, it would be, I offer my heart to the divine. And then a third message that comes from the journey. What enabled you to make the shift from sculpture one to sculpture two? And in this case, we can see here, accepting this moment and its grand design. And we invite you to do this, not as a task, it's an invitation to let it flow naturally, to let your hand as a part of your body guide you. Do this as a contemplative practice. I mean, we were mentioning social art, and it's not about the result, but more the artifacts, but more about the creative process, the experience, and making it visible. So the invitation is to enjoy being yourself an artist. Arawana says art is about how we live our life, how we build society. It's a life form. And so we invite you to enjoy being an artist, right? Enjoying also the music that Tony will play for us on the piano, drawing, writing, and letting Tony inspire us with this emergent piece that he will play for us. Thank you, Tony. That was beautiful. And taking a few moments to end our piece of art, we will go now into a resonance practice. And we had visual arts, we had embodied art, we had music, we had writing. Now we will have poetry. And so if you were so kind to show us the next slide, we will invite you to share in the chat 3 sentences. And just hear the instructions, and then we do this all together. So the first sentence will be the message from Sculpture 1 about your current reality. The second sentence would be the message from Sculpture 1 about your emerging future. And the third sentence would be what enabled the shift from Sculpture 1 to Sculpture 2. And for example, in this other example we have here, it could be tied down, the first sentence. The second sentence, it's okay to trust life. And the third sentence, accepting this moment as it is. And the invitation is to write these sentences down in the chat, but it's important that you write them all together first, and then you click to share so that we can see all 3 sentences together. They form a little poem together that we will share in a few minutes. So whenever you want, you can write in the chat your 3 sentences. Who reads the sentence?
I have to keep pushing this. I can open and allow and relax. Trust. I'm poking my nose in, smoothing. By withdrawing a bit, I regather myself and smooth myself in the situation. Pushed down, breaking through, choosing freedom.
Feeling blocked by a force. It is so immense. Expansion, trust. Distress, beholding, love in life.
I feel in 2 different and opposing places. I'm opening up to embrace the different places, and I'm accepting that there is beauty in both and that they can coexist in harmony.
I feel trapped. I feel relieved and free. Enough of the old, I long for the emerging new.
Paying attention with love. Feeling pushed back. Feeling fear, uncertainty, vulnerability. I want to stay in, sense an opening. I long for love.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm alone.
Was...
Sorry. We're here. I'm alone and no one
Last-
wants me. I'm sick and twisted. I'm comfortable and safe and purpose-oriented and full of life and love. What enabled the shift, tension of opposites, freedom and expression.
And from YouTube, a last one, a time of strife, struggle, and the development of perseverance. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Arawana, for this beautiful process and practice, and for the interweaving and blending of the arts, as you shared, Laura, the poetry, the movement through experience and movement in the body. I think it's often so easy, or it's sort of the go-to to be able to just stay in the mind and stay busy and just go to the next thing and the next thing, and to really drop in and move through this experience. It's not always easy. So thank you all for sticking with it and moving through it and noticing that individual experience that you may be having, and being able to do that with others in your group and begin to see what's emerging for each of us and all of us. So I'll turn it over to Otto for our next practice before we close.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you, Laura and Arawana and everyone. So I also was really struck by all the additional examples we have in the chat. So I just want to end with two more. Fearful and holding back. Being called to let go and claim my space. Courageous and claiming my space in leadership and change. And then I keep hiding my heart. It's okay to be me. I can trust I'm enough. So it's interesting what happens when we lean into these sentences that are not our own, but instantly we know they are true the moment we hear them. And in part, what resonates with us. So what is it really that's resonating there with us? That's the question we want to hold. And as we will move this practice, as Antoinette will explain a little later, into the social solidarity circle practice for the next exhale, so basically for next week, the next 2 weeks, we have the possibility to lean into them a little more in both dimensions, which is one, our own personal experience, and two, the collective experience that begins to show up the moment kind of we attend to the deeper soil conditions of the social field. So with that, I want to turn it over to Kelvy, next door here in Somerville, so who has been capturing the process we have been going through. And I have been through pinning your video, so throughout the whole session with great interest following what you have been doing. So Kelvy, what was it like for you, and what are we looking at? So let's go over to Somerville.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay,
perfectly.
Great. So, I've been very precious with my wall in my office, and I've been using, for all the scribing I've been doing in the past month and a half that I've been home, on a standard piece of paper, like as if I were going to a hotel room and setting it up, or as if I were going into a space at MIT and I had a set parameter. And this week I've been very, I have felt anyone working with me knows my fire has been coming up a little bit. And as I was getting ready and as I was working more and more, I started feeling like this is just not a time to be precious. And if I get paint on my wall, that's paint on my wall. But my main feeling in this was, aside from the content, which you'll be able to look at, was just that these times call for risk-taking and courage and a messiness. And that was my small step tonight.
Risk-taking and courage and messiness. So let's take a moment now. Put your image of this Calvi bird image on full screen, and click out the other Zoom windows, minimize them, so that we take a moment now to allow this image to sink into our minds, sink into our hearts, and notice the resonance it has on you. And now, if you want, you can share your resonance in the chat by using the sentence structure I see, or I sense, or I feel. Just share your sentence or two by using one of these sentence structures. I see, I sense, I feel in the chat. And then after a little while, we will be reading some of them back.
I see a revolution. I sense my tribe and belonging. I feel the pain leaving my body as I move into my future.
I see pain and beauty. I sense rebirth. I sense with pull of activity. I sense the oneness, the connecting to Gaia, our earth. I sense movement, yet heaviness. I sense earth rooted, vibration, and evolution.
I feel the softness of my heart in front of a strong back. I sense breaking out of false limits. I sense clarity and space emerging from the chaos. I see that the link to bridging uncertainty and connection is tapping into the source through our body. I see uncertainty bursting forth, welcomed by a soft heart and a strong back.
Wow. My heart is just, oof. exploding. That's what it feels like. And just feeling the resonance and seeing all of the different comments in the chat and the that image. I'm just so moved. And partially I'm moved because in this evening stuck, I literally fell over and had this feeling of it's okay to fall and it's okay to be messy, and to see that in your drawing, Kelvy, as well, and to know that this disruption, this moment of crisis, this moment that feels like uncertain and who knows where we're going to end up, that may move us into a new direction, and that there may be a new opening there. So being in the body, there is so much here for us, so much to offer. And as we move into this exhale week from this moment of kind of collective sensing and seeing what's going on with all of us and this deep resonance that we're beginning to open, we will invite you into a 2.0 version of social solidarity circles. And this 2.0 version is an entrance into being able to use this embodied experience and use the essence of Sculpture 1 and the movement or the shift that you might make into Sculpture 2 as an exploration of the transition that you may be feeling. And in the first week or the first time that you might meet with your social solidarity circle to do this, you'll do it on an individual level. And then when you meet again, you'll do it on a collective level. So in the second one, you might tap into the sense of your community or your country or your region or whatever feels really important for you on a collective level. And you'll move through that in Sculpture 1 and Sculpture 2 and explore the transition there, just to see what's happening for us on the microcosm, what's happening for us as a collective. And then if you'd like to join the social presencing theater research groups or the focus groups that Eva mentioned earlier, you can join that. We'll send out a link. You can join that and share your process with us so that we can see the experience of moving from Sculpture 1 to Sculpture 2. We can see what's actually happening in our collective as a whole and begin to learn from that experience and see what's resonating with us. And in the next time we meet on May 8th, we'll be joined by, as I mentioned earlier, Thomas Hubel, Nipun Mehta, and John Kabat-Zinn, who will share in this deep resonance practice with us from their different vantage points and way in to be able to see and understand together as we sit in this place of discomfort and as we move through to whatever the next part of our experience is, and the next place that we can make our deepest and best contributions together.
John Kabat-Zinn will be the one who joins this session, right? Yes.
For the 8 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be with John Kabat-Zinn. So we look forward to having him with us. And we will send you more information in an email, and you can find all of it on GAIAjourney.org. And any experiences that you shared today or that you've had, you can join in the conversation with all of the other groups with the hashtag GAIAjourney.org. So we will see you next time on May 8th or 9th, wherever you are. And you can, there is a question if you need to register again. If you've registered once, you will get an email with a link. But there is still an opportunity to bring in others. If you haven't registered, you still can to join the Zoom session with us. So we'll see you on GAIAjourney.org. We'll see you on hashtag GAIAJourney in the social media world. And thank you all for joining our Inhale today. Take care, everybody. We can all unmute and say goodbye.
Bye.